there, I'm Diane Chaplin, and this is a live stream in celebration of Black History Month. It's being broadcast on February 6th, 2024, but I thank you for listening, whether you're listening live or whether you're catching it after the broadcast. I'm going to play music by 5 really wonderful composers tonight, and I invite you after the broadcast, because it's sometimes hard to tell when I'm announcing who the composers are. I invite you after the broadcast to go look at the front screen or look at the back screen to sort of check them out and maybe listen to some of their other music that they've written. I'm going to start with the composer Eleanor Alberga, who is a British composer. She was born in Jamaica and did her music study in England. She is a wonderful pianist and really started her career winning competitions and gaining some fame as a pianist. And then she started composing and is now really, really well esteemed in England in particular for her compositions, which have been played widely. Symphonic works, solo works, a lot of dance works. She's really quite a well-recognized composer in England. And in 2015, the Scottish cellist Robert Irvine put together a project where he commissioned 18 composers to write a work for solo cello. And these works we would consider them miniatures, meaning that they are generally under 5 minutes in length. And a miniature often has a little story, sort of a character piece in some way, shape, or form. So Eleanor Alberga was one of the composers that wrote a piece for this project, and there is a recording by Robert Irvine of all these 18 solo cello pieces. This piece is called Ride Through. And I don't really know the story of it, so I made up my own. In my story, it's a ride through life. So it starts off kind of easygoing, pleasant, nice. Then there's some strife and discord in the middle, but by the kind of second half of this short piece, it's sort of happy, outgoing, joyous, and that's kind of how we all hope life will go. I hope we're through the discord part and we're in the happy and joyous part at this time. So this is Ride Through by Eleanor Alberga. waiting for my string to stop ringing. I think that's it. That was Ride Through by Eleanor Alberga. And actually, I do want to mention that all the pieces on this program are kind of miniatures. They don't necessarily all have stories that go along with them, but they're all really short, including this next one, which is a suite for solo cello, but it's in 3 movements that are themselves quite short. This is a piece by the composer Quinn Mason, who is a young composer. He lives in Texas. He's also a conductor, and he's really made a name for himself with youth orchestras. Actually, when I went and looked on his page to see what kind of performances he had coming up, there was this giant list of youth orchestras performing his works. So that's one thing that he's really done. A lot of his symphonic works, particularly that are accessible for players. And obviously he also wrote a solo cello piece. He started this piece in 2016 when he was only 20 years old, and then did some revisions or additions in 2020. This suite is in 3 movements. The first is sort of a yearning, slow prelude. Then there is a intermezzo movement that's just kind of happy-go-lucky, maybe, and then a fast and furious finale. This is the suite for solo cello by Quinn Mason. That was the Suite for Solo Cello by Quinn Mason. My heart is beating a little fast after that. That was exciting. The next piece I'm going to play is actually a US premiere, and this is by my Facebook friend Godwin Sado, who is a very esteemed Nigerian composer, and he has made a lot of Facebook cello friends. So he's been writing a lot of solo cello music for us to play. This is something that he wrote in November 2023 for Christmas. It is actually a Christmas song, but I sort of missed the Christmas time performance, so I'm playing it now because it's just a lovely, wonderful, joyful song, and I think it deserves to be played. I didn't want to wait till next Christmas. The piece is called Kerasimesi Alayo, which means joyful Christmas, and it is partly based on a Yoruba Christmas song that Godwin Sado also wrote. And it's just, the words are just about Christmas being this super joyful, festive time. And I hope you enjoy this. Kerasimesi Alayo by Godwin Sado. That was Kerazimezi Alayo by Godwin Sado. The next piece I'm going to play has a big story along with it. And I had an experience today about music and stories, which is that you don't always need to have a story behind music to enjoy it. A huge amount of music has no story at all. And we enjoy it very much, symphonies and sonatas and things that are not programmatic. Programmatic music meaning something that specifically has a story. Obviously, there's lots of beautiful music that we enjoy, and even music with a story we can enjoy without knowing the story. The next piece, it helps really a lot to know the story. I think that it'll make a big impact on you to hear the story. But I had an experience today where I watched a video of a piece by John Cage, which is 639 years long. So John Cage is no longer with us. He passed away several years ago. And this piece that he wrote is called As Slow as Possible. And it's being played on an organ in Germany. And the last time there was a note change was 2 years ago. So yesterday, I think, the note changed. Yesterday or the day before, the note changed. And there was a very brief video, a minute maybe in length, where you could hear the organ playing the notes that were existing. And then a guy came in with a new pipe and he put it in and the chord changed. And I got tears in my eyes. Now, I know that if I'd walked into this church in Germany and there was some organ playing a drone note that it doesn't sound like a song or like a tune, if I heard an organ playing a drone note and then the note changed, I would go, oh, there's an organ note and there's another organ note. But knowing the story of just that John Cage was this incredibly quirky, revolutionary composer who really, really, really changed a lot about music and expanded horizons that we had no idea were possible. He did such huge work when he was alive as a composer. The fact that this composition is living on beyond him not in the same way that, like, Mozart or Beethoven or somebody writes a piece and we still play those pieces. There's something about this in particular because it's the genesis of the piece. And if people have the dedication to keep it going for 600 more years, it's an amazing thing. And so I to some extent, I'm not comparing myself to John Cage, but there's something about doing these live streams where I'm bringing to you music you've never heard. I would bet any amount of money that there's not one of you listening to this live stream that has heard all of these pieces played. And you've definitely not heard of them all on the same concert, but I'll bet you haven't heard all this music. And so my responsibility to you, bringing you new music, I somehow that all got tangled up for me in a really emotional way when I heard the chord change on this organ piece. So this next piece has a story. This piece is called Quiet Shadows. It's by the composer Kimo Williams. And he is a very interesting guy. He's kind of a rock and roller. He's a guitarist and has done lots of really impressive collaborations with many other famous guitarists and rock and roll folks and produced big shows and things. But he's also a composer. He wrote this piece in 1994. This is the earliest work on the program. He grew up in a military family, and he spent some time himself in the military. He also, when he was young, lived on his grandparents' sharecropper farm where he picked cotton, not cotton, excuse me, he picked tobacco. Looking at my notes, he picked tobacco on his grandparents' sharecropper farm, which seems like something from very many generations ago. So when he was in the military, he was in Vietnam, and during your time there, you often have to do guard duty, and you're a young man in the middle of the night in the jungle, and it's dark, and you imagine that you see things. There's the tree. Is that an enemy soldier lurking in the shadows? Is it an animal? What is it out there? And you're all by yourself all night long doing this guard duty. And when he discussed it with his other soldier friends, they all confessed that in fact they all had that happen. And I think we've all had it happen, seeing strange things in the dark. So this piece is a musical portrayal of a soldier alone on guard duty in Vietnam. And it's written in a very interesting way. It's written in a kind of a free form. There's notes and there's rhythms, but the composer says you can play at any speed, you can make any kind of sound, loud, soft, silences, whatever, that's totally up to the performer. So what I have done here is taking his comments about the piece, about how, you know, when you're alone and you're scared and there's anxiety comes in, and you're worried, like, do I need to do something? Should I shoot at the thing I think I'm seeing? Should I sit here? And then calming yourself with maybe thoughts of home, or maybe there's lulled moments where you don't see horrible shapes out in the dark, and that you feel at peace, or you feel confident. So I'm trying to bring all those emotions into this piece in this very free-form kind of way. And so I hope that works for you. One of the things that the composer requests, there's a stage direction, he requests that the cellist turn to the side as if I'm on guard duty to protect you, the audience. So now you can see that I'm using an iPad. For those of you who thought I had all that music memorized, I don't. I have an iPad and a pedal that turns it. This is Quiet Shadows, a soldier on guard duty in Vietnam. Okay, you're all safe now. That was Quiet Shadows by J. Chemo Williams. Okay, so I've got one more piece on the program. This is a piece by the composer Jonathan Bingham. He lives in San Francisco, where he teaches at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. He has degrees from Howard University and NYU. And he has written a lot of film music, actually. Lots of film credits in his bio, as well as things for large and small ensemble, orchestra, whatever. This is a piece called Monograph. It was written in 2020, and I always wonder, this is just my conjecture, I did not actually ask him, although I did email him. I always wonder with pieces written in 2020 whether they are pandemic pieces, if they were written specifically because since 2020 everybody's been sitting at home playing solo music like me. But in any case, this is a really interesting piece. I'm not going to tell you any stories. You'll make up your own stories for this one. This is Monograph by Jonathan Bingham. was monographed by Jonathan Bingham. I hope you enjoyed the celebration of Black History Month and that you'll join me March 5th, which is the first Tuesday of March, for a program celebrating Women's History Month. Thank you so much. I will say hello to all the comments afterwards rather than now. I'm going to give you that screen in case you want to check out any of the composers' names.